Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Snap Judgments. I am joined today, and by the way, I am Glazer, not the Roy. I am joined today by Bang Bang Gunny T. How you doing, Bang Bang?
I am doing fantastic, like super fantastic. Things are going real well. Our recording and pre-going live conversation was good, and I'm really excited for the future, for sure.
There's only one person in the community nice enough to let me give them the nickname Bang Bang on the spot and not have any sort of comeback to that. So, Gunny, who we joined by today?
We're joined by two fantastic people. One of my favorite casual, person I just want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with while talking Marvel Snap. The one and only Ika. Ika, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. It's good to be back. We're doing it live this time too, so that's awesome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and we'll have some new cards to talk about, some OTA type stuff. Like, what a perfect person to have on here. And first time to the show, ToxicSoulKing. This is my first time meeting you. You've been working with Glazer quite a bit and chatting with him. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. It's exactly my time slot right now. It's 3 a.m. I'm the most active at this time, so happy to be here.
You just got done streaming yourself, right? You were doing some great climbing.
Yeah, I just cooked up my little Wiccan list with Mr. Fantastic and went on like a 90% win rate on 15 games.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Really?
I'm so sorry we had to pull you from
win
that.
rate we interrupted? I would have been like, Glazer, sorry.
Sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pump anyways tomorrow probably, so yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, ain't that just the way? So, Toxic, real fast, what's your Twitch so people can find you?
It's ToxicSoulKing.
No, it's not.
It's not?
ToxicSoulKing letters.
Oh my god.
TTV.
It is TTV? My management did
it was a few days ago, unless it's changed.
Okay.
Fair enough. Go follow ToxicSoulKing. If you just type in ToxicSoulKing, you'll find him. He's the one playing Marvel Snap at all odd hours. He's a phenomenally kind and engaging person. You should definitely check him out. And speaking of phenomenally kind and engaging people, we must have the opposite of all things. So it's Ika. Ika, how can people find you on Twitch?
Ika, aka _MTS. MTS is the beginning of my last name. There you go.
Ooh.
Little.
Your last name is Mountains? Mountains.
You want me to spell my last? MTSKHVETADZE.
Wait, really?
Five times fast, yeah.
How do you pronounce that?
That's awesome.
Little peek behind the curtain.
Ika, how do you pronounce that last name?
It's Mtskhvetadze.
I will remember that.
I'm not even going to try that on air. That just seems like a bad idea for all involved.
So, all right, there you go. Follow me for more stuff like that.
Please do make sure to follow both of our guests. And while we're here, you can follow me. I am Snap Judgments Pod on YouTube, Pulse Glazer on Twitch, and starting Monday, which is the day this should be coming out, maybe Tuesday, hopefully Monday, the day this is coming out, I will be having daily articles once more on Marvel Snap Zone. So if you're interested in reading instead of video, please check that out. We're very proud to be the podcasting partner of Marvel Snap Zone. Gunny, anything else we should advertise, or are we good to go?
I think we're pretty good to go. We got a lot of juice to get into, so let's get into it.
All right. We're going to start, as we always do, by talking about the new card that came out this week. It's been out for a couple days, so hopefully we've all had a chance to play it, or at least seen it played enough. It is Moonstone, who is a 4/6 ongoing, has the ongoing effects of your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards here. Let's kick it off with our new guest, Toxic. What do you think about Moonstone so far?
At first, she didn't seem like a really strong card. She seemed like a solid card, but nothing too special, since the 1, 2, and 3 ongoing slots are not that big right now in the game. So I was like, we don't have a lot of ways to cook around with her, only like with Victoria. But the more I tried her out with Victoria, and another card will probably come later on that was in the upcoming OTA, the better she felt. And I feel like with the next season, especially, she will be even stronger. So anybody who can afford the keys and likes to play the ongoing archetype or like hand buff stuff is probably really happy about getting Moonstone.
Just a quick note, the card next season that ToxicSoulKing is referring to is the Sam Wilson version of Captain America, who will be the season pass card. So if you do open for Moonstone, that is a card that you can also choose to buy that should go very well with it. Ika, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. She's a very future-proof card, right? I think that's something we can say. Any card in the future that comes out that has an ongoing ability and falls within that 1, 2, or 3 cost, this is the card that you have to be thinking about, and something that second dinner as the designers of the game have to think about as well. And you know what? Sometimes they might miss it, right? Like sometimes they might miss something busted that Moonstone interaction does. So, it's going to be, if you're someone that has enough keys or tokens to be able to purchase this card, do, because you might regret it later, as would be my point.
Gunny?
Yeah, 2 points for Moonstone here. One is, if you're wondering like what the power level of this card is, I would really consider it a lot to do like with Mystique. The reason being is it's not an activator on its own. It's obviously like it needs something else. But most of us are familiar with how powerful Mystique is, and Moonstone's very much in the same category of like, do you want to double the thing that you're doing? That being said, she has one glaring weakness, and that's the card Enchantress. It will shut down an entire lane, like kill pretty much your entire deck. If you're building around this card, that's one card that can absolutely hose you. But that only stocks for this card only go up the more cards that are released. This is the worst time Moonstone will probably be. I watched Regis play a very Moonstone deck, Tribunal, Onslaughts type stuff, and he got to really ridiculous numbers, but his win rate was really bad because one, people were playing Super Scroll, and two, Enchantress was running rampant. But the card is good, and Ika brings up a great point. It is future proof. Cards like this with almost a blank slate that does so much, they're very useful, right? There's no niche for this. It's just any ongoing cost 3 or less. It's going to pair very well with Moonstone.
My working theory is this week is going to make it really impossible to evaluate the card, given how much mirror stuff there is and how much nonsense is all around the meta, that this is so strong despite that this is in multiple top decks, that people are able to build with it despite this being the worst week it's ever going to be, suggests to me that this is going to be an extraordinarily powerful card. I think we might, and this is a big take given that Iron Patriot is this season and Victoria Hand is this season, I think in long term this might end up being the card of the season. I can see Victoria Hand staying really good for quite a while, but eventually, just straight up, they're going to nerf that card. They're probably also going to end up nerfing Iron Patriot eventually. I hate to say it, but like Iron Patriot is going to be at best a 2/2 somewhere down the line, and is fairly likely to only give -3 instead of -4. In time, I don't think they're going to actually do anything to Moonstone. If they did, it would be like take a power off, which is ultimately not super relevant. I fully expect this to be a very, very powerful card, like forever. Also, I want to eat crow. I want to take the opportunity to say that I am wrong about something. About 6 months ago on this podcast, I was like, 4s are impossible to design. The 4 spot is bad. They haven't made a good 4 in forever. That's not just broken because Zabu exists. And then they released 8,000 top-notch 4s. Malekith, Anti-Venom, this, Galacta, Gwenpool, etc., etc. The list goes on. Misery, all in meta decks, right? So they clearly had ideas for 4 drops that could work. It just, they hadn't been doing them for so long. Probably because they were just like, well, Zabu will just break that, right? And then once they sort of got their legs under them with what they were doing with Zabu, the 4 spot might be the best and most important in the game.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you have a card like Zabu getting played on turn 1, if you don't see any of your 4 drops or only have like one of your 4 drops in your hand, that becomes a snap condition. 4s are very powerful.
Yep, 4s at this point are almost the build arounds now.
Mm-hmm.
4s and 2s are the main mechanic of the game now. Like the 2s do something powerful, and the 4s are your main engine, basically.
And importantly, you can play both of those on turn 6.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are, and it also, this kind of push towards this kind of system has helped a lot of 1-cost cards to be played. Remember, there was a time where nobody was playing 1-cost cards, basically. And because now you have a lot of 4s and 2s, you have space to fill in some curves. So a lot of
turn
1s
3 is a 1 and a 2. Turn 5 is a 4 and a 1.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. But 5 costs are getting forgotten. They're not even releasing 5 cost cards. That's a different topic.
So, I mean, in the interest of props to Second Dinner, because I don't know if we're going to be entirely positive once we get to that OTA, they managed to make Quicksilver a meta card with the 1/4, probably the best 4 that we didn't even bother to talk about, right? Like this, they've done a really impressive job of upgrading 4s. Toxic, anything to add?
Yeah, to the first point, the thing is, the meta is always coming to the same thing sometimes. Like when Zabu was released, a lot of free drops are not played. Like when Zabu was like the meta, there was always the argument, why do we even play free drops when we can just play 4 drops? And right now it's again a little bit shifting to the way. Like we have Enchantress now for all this stuff. I even see less Red Guardian people now. It's again like we again shift more to the 4 drops again and skip out on the free drops. It's just so crazy to think about the part. Like it's just one energy difference between these 2 cards, but the power level of a 4 cost card and a 3 cost card is just, there's such a big gap most of the time. It's really interesting to see that.
Yeah, the
and
game does go.
And we talked about Quicksilver, and I'm a big Quicksilver fan. Like I am probably one of the biggest Wiccan Quicksilver believers. Chat hates me for that, but it is what it is.
I think it's usually just right. It's less right than it was a few weeks ago now because getting 1s in the deck offers you extra power because of the Victoria Hand and Iron Patriot stuff, right? Like so there's a little less value than there was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. But outside of that, I think it is very relevant that sorry, my wife sneezed and it distracted me. Bless you. So outside of that, I think it is very relevant that they managed to take this like seemingly terrible card, and I think it's going to get better when like cards like Ares come out. I think Quicksilver goes really well with Ares in interesting ways. Ares Wiccan, you ready?
I mean, I already had a Sutu Wiccan deck, so I might just overwork that and I have it.
Right? Doesn't that make sense? Like if your weak cards are already out of the deck, you're much more likely to win that Ares play. All right.
Now I want to cook.
Let's go. We're gonna cook soon. Let us begin with the first chunk of the OTA. I think the first 3 cards. Well, let's talk about the first 2 cards together. Let's not talk about the others. Scream goes from a 2/3 to a 2/2. She now also will no longer gain power if Luke Cage is on the board. I want to be clear, though, if she's played before Luke Cage, which is obviously possible as she's a 2-drop, and she gains power before Luke reveals, she will keep that power. She doesn't suddenly, like, lose that power, right? So Luke has to be played early for this, which does make it vulnerable. And Spider-Man, strangely, has gone from a 3/5 to a 2/4. Those are the 2 big changes to that Scream deck, which I told y'all, I'm going to be obnoxious as hell about this because I just took a mea culpa on the last one. I told y'all Scream's numbers were through the roof. I've gotten in fights with everyone. My comments are always like, you're just wrong about Scream, bro. Eat it. You're wrong about Scream. Scream's not that good. From the mouth of Glenn Jones himself, Scream has been dominating our internal metrics every bit as good as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. The nerf was bound to happen. I wish it wasn't the Luke Cage thing. I like the power nerf. I don't like the Luke nerf, but that's where we are right now. We'll see if it ends up mattering long term. I know Ika has been experimenting with Spider-Man already. I don't know if he's been playing Scream, but let's kick it off with Ika. What do you think of these changes?
Yeah, so the Scream changes is like, I've said this before, but like it's kind of every OTA, there's usually one change that is like a reminder to like top players or streamers that they balance this game for like the 99%, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We are in a bubble where like, yeah, personally, I don't find Scream was, I didn't think Scream was that oppressive. Good, solid card, competitive card, but I was never like blown out when I was facing Scream decks. But obviously, there was something that in the metrics that showed that Scream was dominant in maybe lower collection, lower ranks, etc. Because this was the number 1 card I always recommended to low collection players, because the rest of the deck is pretty cheap, and you can slap a Scream in there, and you have a solid deck that's actually pretty easy to play and very disruptive and competitive. So I personally don't like that they did basically like a double nerf to Scream, but I get it. I get it. And it's still a solid card. But their justification that like, oh, you know what, we're going to make Spider-Man better now to help with the Scream decks, that I do not like. Scream decks already have a very tight curve. So Scream decks have a very tight curve where you play Scream or Craven on 2, you play your Spider-Man or Polaris on 3, then your Stegron, then your Arrow, then your Magneto. So, making this a lower cost card is not necessarily like, it's not necessarily upgrading the deck too much. Obviously, it is helping the curve in some cases where you want to play like a 2 and a 3, or you want to play a 2 and a 4 at the turn 6. But just to finish off on Spider-Man, as a card itself, what they did to the card, I think is great. Spider-Man as a 2/4 is really, really strong. And one application that you might not realize is that I think this goes into Sentry Annihilus decks now, because, hey, look, you play Sentry on 4, and your opponent sees this and they're like, oh, they're going to Annihilus, so I better clog up this right lane. Well, now you can play Spider-Man plus Viper, move out the card with Spider-Man, and you have a free Viper. Viper play on there. So Spider-Man's fantastic now, but maybe not great in the Scream decks, as they said.
Toxic.
The thing I loved about Scream the most is like how versatile you can play like the Scream decks. You can do like the mini Scream version with like Negasonic in the focus, but with no 5-drops. You had like the Wiccan decks. You had like the Doom decks. You had basic Screams. Scream was such a fun card because it had such a big pool of different cards you can play. But I understand like the fact that it probably got a lot played. Like I feel like people snap on Scream turn 2 like I snap with I have a Wiccan hand already ready to beat up the opponents. Scream was really, really good on 2, and most of the time it was enough. If you couldn't stop it with Red Guardian, your opponent just snowballing out and it was easy to beat you. And I understood like the change there. And the thing about Spider-Man, Ika said it already, it might not be like the normal package. Like the weekend package I used to play with Scream might now be significantly worse, since now it's a weird functioning 2-drop there.
Mm-hmm.
But I might see Spider-Man in now more different decks just to be enabled to do stuff. I mean, I had the idea maybe we try out C4. I really love the Annihilus Sentry thinking, and it might just enable Spider-Man to be more meta relevant or find his places in more homes than just only Scream, because as he was before, it was just like, yeah, we always played with Scream and that's it. And the lower the cost of the card goes, the higher the chances are, in my opinion, that the card now fits in maybe other decks too, to get maybe some fun interactions together.
Gunny? No? Okay. So I want to note that in the ideal curve, Spider-Man is significantly worse for Scream. It makes it much, much more awkward on the ideal curve. But you don't always get the ideal curve, right? Sometimes you're drawing Scream on turn 4, and then you can play Scream and immediately Spider-Man. That's a reasonably big difference. There was no card that did that before. On turn 3, if you do get the ideal curve, if you're still running Kingpin in those decks, you can play a Kingpin. You can play a Nebula. You can play another card that's going to allow you to get that extra. Basically, every card you play with Spider-Man will have enough power to make up for the power he lost. So I think that concerns about the ideal curve for Spider-Man are a little overblown. I do think he's going to be good in other homes. I did think of Cerebro, and I did not think of that Viper play. That Viper play is both hilarious and completely insane, and I love it, and I'm very excited to test that out. I miss Annihilus decks very much. I think the nerf to Scream is severely overblown. I think the decks need to be rebuilt a little bit. They need to run Enchantress or Rogue. I don't think Red Guardian's quite good enough here. But Luke has to be on the board. Luke has to be sitting there being played on the board. If Luke's not there, Scream's going to do all that stuff. It's the same thing as playing Luke on the last turn of the game at that point, right? If they just play Luke on the last turn of the game, they're preventing 2 power. Good for them. If they play Luke earlier, you can get rid of it. You can use an option to get rid of it. And if that option is Rogue, you can now play that Rogue option with You guessed it, Spider-Man on turn 5, which is a very powerful way of going about handling that issue. I think Scream's going to be nearly as good as she was, still one of the better cards in Marvel Snap. I expect the reason that she's going to be discounted for a while is that people are just not going to play her. This is more of a psychological nerf than anything else. The double nerf makes it feel really bad, and I think that double nerf is going to scare people off the card in a fairly relevant way that is obviously going to negatively impact her. Hello? That was fun. But is she, I don't know what just happened. But is she that much worse? I tend to assume that she is not that much worse. I tend to assume that she is still a very powerful card and one that is worth running. And one that is worth getting, especially if you're low collection level. Maybe I'm wrong, but Rogue being Series 3 and Enchantress being Series 2 suggests to me that this isn't going to be the problem that many are assuming it to be. Any follow-ups to that thought?
I think one thing that Ika mentioned before, talking about 2-drops being so powerful with a 4-drop, like that's where Spider-Man fits in really well. Speaking earlier on our on Moonstone, right? How powerful is it on a turn 6 to drop down a Spider-Man and pull out, at least one of the ongoing cards from a Moonstone lane? That seems like a really powerful move, right? It just has so much utility to just mess with your opponent. That's the other part that I don't remember you talking about, Ika. You mentioned on your X post, was it just how much disruption you can get out of a Spider-Man just messing up your opponent's plays, because the game is a lot about positioning, right? And if on turn 6 you're dropping down a Spider-Man and just messing up their positioning, that could be really impactful. Obviously it's random, but it almost sometimes as impactful as destroying a card, just moving it into a lane. Maybe there's a lane, because a lot of times people are trying to focus on 2 lanes and winning 2 lanes. So if you were to move one of their powerful cards out of there on that third contested lane, because let's face it, for the most part there's one lane that each player has and a third lane that is contested, right? So if you were the one that's choosing to pull a card out of there while you're dropping in a powerful 4-drop or something, that could be game changing.
Cool. All right. The next change is Luke Cage going from a nice simple 3/3 to a 3/2. That's fine. We can discuss Luke being amazing if you want. But the important thing to discuss about Luke Cage is not that he's losing a power. It's that the notes suggest that they are going to break up Luke Cage. He is no longer going to be the one-size-fits-all glove. I'm interested to hear if you have any particular Luke takes. Great. But if not, what do you think they're going to release? Like, how are they going to break Luke into pieces? What do you expect that to look like? Toxic?
My first call was like maybe they do like a Miss Marvel or a Miss Fantastic thing, that he's going to do like the adjacent locations. So the first thought was like he might maybe get stat buff and it's like only his lane, but that feels kind of weird because it already was weird. So I just imagined he could do like adjacent stuff. Since Fantastic is adjacent, Miss Marvel is adjacent, it would fit a little bit to the ongoing card scheme with that. So that would have been my call.
I like it. Ika?
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I had something similar in mind as well. Maybe they divide up the way you counter your affliction in some way. Maybe I don't know what that looks like. I'm not a game designer, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they they take a look at the whole affliction thing again. Maybe they look at how you afflict your opponents and how you afflict yourself as well, and sort of divide up that mechanic. But that would be a large overhaul of all the other affliction cards as well. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's an on reveal side of things and then an ongoing side of things as well, or activate in some way, right? So yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to have a Luke card and a Cage card. And whenever you play them both on the same location, they equal Luke Cage's ability.
So I expect Luke to still work with opponent-generated affliction, but you'd need something else for if your own effects or location are doing something.
I could see that.
So I think that's the simplest way to break it up, so that he'll protect against Hazmat or Man-Thing, but he won't protect against your own Hazmat or Man-Thing. And you'll need to run a different card for that, which I think breaks things up interestingly. I don't know how they word that, but yeah.
Yeah, like maybe because there's ongoing affliction cards, right? Like US Agent. Maybe there's a different card that counters that, and then you have Luke Cage that does like Hazmat counter or something like that.
So I'd like to suggest that the second they break up Luke Cage in this way, Affliction is the most powerful thing in the game.
I feel like they might going to change some afflicted stuff as well, because with the release of Diamondback and already the power level of Ajax, there's no way they're gonna keep the stuff like this. They started now small with US Agent. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, they started slow, but they will probably do more to that, because Hazmat and Ajax being like an, I don't know, 15 power Ajax is just too much for the game. Like, it should never be a punishment to play Zoo and don't have a Luke Cage or something.
Very quickly, Diamondback is a 3/3 coming, I believe, at the end of February, with the ongoing ability of adding +3, I want to say, +2 or +3, to other negative effects at this location. For your opponent only, not for you.
Yeah.
So it is going to be an incredible card. With this next card we're going to talk about, US Agent. US Agent goes from giving -4 to giving -3. For anyone who doesn't remember, for about 4 days, that's what it did in the first place. Ika, tell us about the agent.
Yeah, this was good on them. I didn't have this like up there as one of the things that needed to be changed as like a priority, but you know, everyone recognized how powerful US Agent was, just from the sheer fact that you just ran this in your low curve decks, right? Move bounce ran US Agent, and that's actually one of the major tools. Like, not only does that deck already go over the top like crazy, it also had a tool to deal with all the other big powerful stuff. So yeah, I get it. This is good. This is a good change.
Sucks.
I really like the mind games from Second Dinner, releasing like the card like it is, buffing them so that people see, oh, this old card nobody uses gets buffed, let's play him, and now they nerf it back, and people will still play US Agent because US Agent was and is a good card. When I used to play Bounce, I sometimes ran like a Shang. Shang is clogging Bounce. But now with US Agent, you can just put a 2 energy cost card there that's still able to contest like a 5-drop or a 6-drop from your opponent, while you still can bounce or play your small cards. So US Agent should have been played since he got into the game. But yeah, with the +4 and now the -1 there, it will still be played, and I like the change a lot, because I kind of felt bad playing like in the old days US Agent in my Sarah control list, and Tribunal was kind of popular back then. But no Tribunal player plays Luke Cage. So if you just play US Agent on their poor Iron Man, it's like -8. And that feels like really, really bad.
Yeah, I think it's a great change. It was, you know, one of the best 2 drops in the game. It was a 2/7 with a very easy to reach 7, right? So whenever you look at a card like Maximus, right, where it's a 2/6 and making your opponent draw cards, this is better than that. And we already talked about before on how powerful 4 drops are in the game. Like, just being able to put at least -4 on their side of the board was an insane thing to do. And now if they play more cards there, the stocks of it only go up even higher. I think this needed it. It was needed for the game.
I think that if a card is in a million decks and you can take a power off and it's still going to be in a million decks, then that's a good idea. I think if a card isn't played and you can add 1 power and make it played, then it's usually a good idea to add that power. US Agent fits into the former of those, and therefore it's pretty good. My take here isn't complicated. This is probably my favorite change that they made. Like, it's too easy of a like, oh yeah, once you see it, it's like, oh yeah, that one makes perfect sense. All right. Our next card is Kazar. I have no take. Good for Kazar for getting 1 more power than he had. Anyone got a Kazar take for me?
I do. I actually have a Kazar take. So obviously, I love seeing older cards, especially free cards, getting a buff. And I have to say that I think Zoo is one of the few decks where 1 power can actually make a pretty big difference. They spread out so far, and every 1 point of power a Zoo deck gets, you know, just sprinkled in here and there, can actually make a pretty big difference for that deck.
I dig that. Anyone else? Toxic? Oh, I thought you were nodding. My bad.
I mean, I understand like the buff, like Kazar wasn't that much played. And the only thing about him is like he's one of the most used ongoing cards or follow-up cards for lower collection people or for like beginner peoples. So it was obvious they can't do anything broken to him, because that's why we had to wait like months, years for Captain America change. So it was obvious that they won't do a lot to him, but I don't think he will. There's a big reason for right now to cook a Kazar deck for me or for myself.
Yeah, again, game like you had mentioned before, the game isn't balanced around us, though. Game's balanced around the 90% of players.
I do have one more thought, though. Part of the reason for this buff is next week, Marvel Boy and Kyra are in spotlights. So if people are going to be playing Zoo, they would like that. Like if you go get those cards, having an extra power in Kazar wins you X percentage more of games, and that is a beneficial thing for the game. Are we ready for part 2 of the OTA, which was fairly huge? The big one, and I need to know if you like it or not. Hydra Bob goes from a 1/5 to a 1/4. We will start with Ika.
I saw this coming, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depends if you have the card or not, I guess. Because there was only 2 sentiments ever in my chat or like Twitter was like, I hate this card because I don't have it, or oh man, I just got this card and now they nerfed it. Yeah, I get it. It's a 1/5. You can't have a... The thing is, like, the snap move mechanic was I guess it was just too easy to play around. And I think they thought like, oh, if your opponent snaps and they can snap the card out of there, they can... Yeah, but then you're risking like getting like 8 cubes. And yeah, sure, that might just 5 power moving from one lane to another might not even make a difference. And now you snapped just for that and you lost extra cubes that you wouldn't have lost otherwise. So, it wasn't that much of a downside. Yeah, of course, in some situations it was. So I get it. It's back to what it was before. Some decks will still probably want to play this, but yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It's fine.
We don't usually say things when that happen on stream when we're recording, but Dara just raided with a bajillion people-ish. So thank you, Dara.
That's awesome, man.
We're recording the Snap Judgments podcast. We're going to continue recording now, but I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that why my jaw dropped in the middle of that.
So cool. Thanks a lot, Dara.
I thought my take was just that incredible.
I mean, they always are, Ika. They always are. I mean, bajillion-ish is like a good summary. Toxic.
I knew it will hit Hydra Bob. Like, I wasn't surprised at all. Like, people ask me like for 2 months straight now, should I get Hydra Bob? Should I get Hydra Bob? And I told them already from the last OTA, wait, please, wait for the OTAs. It will happen something to him. And people were like, nah, let's get him. And I was like, are you sure about it? And a viewer of mine got him last week, and I told him, you will probably regret it. Maybe you won't regret it in this OTA, but probably next OTA. And the only thing I didn't understand from the beginning, and I always said it, like Lizard is a 2/5 with a big downside, while Hydra is just a 1/5, 1 energy less, and the only downside is if somebody snaps, he will move somewhere. But you can see the locations, you can counter that in some way. So I was really surprised they printed him out like that, and now he's probably a little bit more balanced. Now he's like a Silver Sable, and Silver Sables he's rarely play. He will still be more played than a Silver Sable, but I liked it change a lot because mid-range was just Hydra Bob.
Gunny?
I think Hydra Bob's... So it was a net neutral card, and here's what I mean by that. As a 1/5, it was the best possible 1-drop you could have. And the negative aspect that Ika talked about your opponent snapping things away, I call that a net neutral because good players would also use that same ability to their advantage. They would have a shut-off location on turn 6, fill up a location, snap on purpose to get your Hydra Bob to move, so then players were using it to their own advantage. So the negative part of it was almost a neutral there of people being able to use it for positive too. So then it just became an awesome 1/5. Like why wouldn't you put it in a deck? I literally bought Hydra Bob just because it was in every deck. There was like no reason to not have it. I tried running other things for so long. I was like, screw it. I guess I'm buying Hydra Bob. And as a 1/4, I still think it gets tons of play.
So I think the only reason it's going to get a ton of play right now is the current season pass card. The card is still a requirement with Iron Patriot, or nearly a requirement with Iron Patriot, because you do want that extra power. At 1/5, I'm of two minds about this. This is the one I've had a lot of trouble with, like reconciling my actual feelings. As a 1/5, it was too good. You could never play Nocturne, and part of the reason you couldn't play Nocturne was as a 3/4. You couldn't pay 3 times as much as Hydra Bob for 1 less power. It felt too bad to just still lose that location. As a 1/5, that's a problem. This was, however, the 1-drop Jeff. For a very long time, there just weren't very many good 2s. They've done a really great job at populating the game with an incredible amount of powerful 2-drops. But for a long time, it was Jeff and then like filler, right? So now all of a sudden, Hydra Bob is that for 1-drops. There's just not that many good 1-drops. Every other 1-drop outside of Zabu that you run is just like, I guess I can run that, like Quicksilver for specific things, right? Outside of, I guess, the archetype specific things like the move enablers and Deadpool. 1-drops just aren't good. I would have preferred to, and I understand why they didn't do this because it's extraordinarily hard to balance the game once you start doing this, see other 1-drops become more powerful and more relevant. Is Hydra Bob still insanely overpowered if Iceman is a 1/3? If Hydra Bob is a 1/5? I'm not sure, right? Like now I actually have a decision to make. It's that it's 3 extra power that changes things. And I'm not sure ultimately if I like this change in the grand scheme of things, even if in the like smaller picture, it is one that makes a ton of sense. No follow-ups?
Yeah, I think
the only point I didn't like is one of my favorite 1-drops and like probably one of the most powerful 1-drops is Nico Minoru. Like if I'm able to run Nico Minoru, I'm always running her, like just like the demon stuff. And another one that finds like his place in every freaking deck somehow is Hood. Like
yeah,
Hood. I saw Hood in C6. I saw Hood in Bounce in Clog. Hood and Nico Minoru are like probably place 2 and 3, while Bob is right now on the place 1 for the best 1-drop cards. But I don't feel like right now, even with the gap now between with the -1 power and Hydra Bob, I feel like the gap between now a Hydra Bob and like a Hood or a Nico is like not really big. Like now we could even think about maybe putting Nico into some Victoria Weekend decks and then a Hydra Bob.
So Toxic, do you think that this could be the opening for Silver Sable, who plays for 4 power but also has disruption in her effect? Because previously, when they were the same power, she was played.
Silver Sable is like a card. In theory, she has like the extra 2, but for example, I would only run Silver Sable in a deck that I really want the Afflicted thing. Like if I'm rocking a Ajax list, of course I would try probably to run a Silver Sable. Otherwise, from that, it's most of the time like my opponents or like a lot of opponents. If you hit like the wrong hit there, it's just like a 1/2. If you don't play Bounce, it's still just a 1/2. While yeah, I still don't see a lot of. I wouldn't see a lot of Sable plays probably still if like not any Bounce archetype is right now popular.
I could see that. I could definitely see that as part of the concern here.
As you were talking there, I think another piece of Hydra Bob that kind of piqued my interest here is a lot of 1-drops have a powerful if clause, right? Silver Sable's great, powerful if they don't have Luke Cage. Nico's powerful if you hit the right thing. Iceman, powerful if, again, you hit the right thing. Hydra Bob's just powerful. Powerful not if anything.
I don't know if that's still true. I think it might be powerful.
I was saying definitely before.
Previously.
This kind of gets it back down into the range where you can consider other things. And it goes back to your topic. If a card can lose a point of power and is still played, then it probably needs to lose a point of power. Which will actually take us on to our next card, I think.
Sentry is now a 4/9, and the Void is a 4-9. I know Ika has been testing the crap out of Sentry basically all day. What do you think of it? What difference does this make?
It's significant, very significant actually, because you're not talking about 1 power, you're talking about 2 power technically, because you ideally want to send over the Void, right? Any card that's a 9, you're writing that sweet line just right under chi. You don't have to worry about anything, and you're maximizing the power output without that worry, right? So it feels just kind of right back where it was. Okay, obviously it's not right back where it was. 410 with -10 was much better, but it's appropriate for the meta. But yeah, it's okay. Like it's not amazing, but needed for sure to make this card back, in the meta at least.
Gunny?
I think this only exemplifies the example you gave, Aaron, which is if a card can afford to lose power and is still playable, it's good. They took 2 power off Sentry. It wasn't playable. It wasn't good enough. So bumping it back up a power, I think, is the right move. Let's see if it's now playable. And if it is, then it's the sweet spot. It's where it deserves to be. What about you, Toxic? What do you think?
I really like the change. It's like the same with Alive. Alive as 10 was like always really weird to play him out on before turn 6 and on turn 6 because you always had to think about the shine. Now with him not being a 10, it's a 9. You can always just pump him out as a 4/9, and I feel like this Ika said as well is +2, and I had sometimes the issues that even if I hit my opponent with a void, it was really close somehow to beat him up. But I feel like that just probably helps a lot with the whole Sentry thing. And I'm happy to finally play one of my oldest decks again. It was like a Werewolf Sentry deck with Annihilus.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to test it out, especially now with maybe Silver Sable, you said it, coming back. I can even have more fun bouncing around stuff.
That move bounce deck with Sentry, Werewolf, etc. Was the #1 deck in the January season with Geo in like the height of the Thanos being OP. For a really long time, Annihilus was the best card in Marvel Snap. For like at least like 4 or 5 months. Annihilus was just the best card in Marvel Snaps, and Sentry was a major part of that package. It took time, and I fully expected it to come back when they nerfed a lot of junk stuff, and that it hasn't suggests that like it's less of a surprise that they would eventually end up buffing Sentry here, right? I don't think Annihilus, even when he was great, is anywhere near as impressive as the White Widow-based Clog. Even when it's better, right? Like, because at its peak, it was a better deck. But it's not as oppressive. It doesn't feel as bad. It plays fairer in Marvel Snap. And since it plays fair, it's a deck that I want to exist. Werewolf is fun. Annihilus is fun. They do interesting things. Buffing cards that make decks that are really interesting and fun is a great way to go about having a healthy metagame in Snap. And I'm very happy that Sentry is what he is in this circumstance.
Here's another.
I do wish they had gone. I do wish they had gone back to 10. Straight up, I think he was fine as 10. Ultimately, I'm fine with Sentry as a 4/10 entirely. I recognize the Shang nonsense. I don't care. He's better as a 10. The Void is better as a 10. I think the downside of Sentry is worse than most cards, and thus the upside should be relatively equal. But still, I'm very happy with this nerf overall.
Another cool thing is one other card that was changed before it came down to 8 cost, or since then, I guess, is that Viper now takes the lowest card. So you have a backup. If your Annihilus plan isn't going on, you can still use that Viper to send over that Void. So 2 cards in your deck able to get rid of this. If you're throwing in, Lady Deathstrike or Cersei, like even more. Just so much cool interaction. I can't wait to see what this card does.
And imagine if Cersei was a good card. Cersei hates me. All right. Onslaught gained a point of power. I don't really have much to add. It's pretty cool. Any major thoughts or yay, 1 point of power?
I mean, yeah, the only other thought I got there is that it's technically possibly more than that if you're doing the Iron Man stuff, extra bigger lane there where even more apparent that an Onslaught Iron Man can win a lane by itself, especially for those early players. It's a really, popular plan once you get those cards unlocked.
Yeah, that list also got stronger with the US Agent nerf, as noted earlier. So double bonus to the Tribunal stuff. All right, only 2 more to go, friends. It is Mr. Fantastic, who goes to a 3/1 from a 3/2, but now gives both side lanes +3 power instead of +2 power. So this is a 1 power net buff, but obviously there's ways to make it better. Tox, what you got for Fantastic?
I don't know if it's because everybody or a lot of people are playing him right now that he feels so good, but I don't know. There is something about him playing with Moonstone together that just feels so smooth. Like, you get +12 only for your adjacent locations, while you still have +7 on your mid location. It feels smooth. I like it a lot, and I like the change to help out now with Moonstone. Maybe that's like a little indicator that we said it. Moonstone's like for the future. Maybe they don't have like their ongoings right now ready for Moonstone in the future, so they just gave us a little bit more to test out till they figure out which card they give us with Moonstone together. But I really like Mr. Fantastic. He feels really good, and he really fits like in those mid-range Moonstone archetypes really, really well.
Ika?
Yeah, no, this is a really good change. I think, and I'll say this: I think the card is going to get even better in the future, because I think right now people are putting it in what many would consider the best deck, which is like the Victoria Hand Moonstone generate a bunch of cards kind of decks. And yeah,
I was about to be like, wait, he's not in move bounce.
Okay, well, we don't talk about Voldemort. Voldemort deck. But no, people are putting it in that deck, and that's fine. It works in there. It does the thing. It's powerful. But I think there's a lot more potential to explore with this card. It can be a Mr. Negative card if you wanted to, because of Pravona discount as well. What's the Agent Venom, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Anti-Venom.
Mm-hmm. Anti-Venom and Agent Venom both can benefit from this card as well. There's some stuff to explore. I think different decks, when we have different metas, will be taking a look at this card and be like, hey, can we actually afford to play Mr. Fantastic? It's not a bad card if you can make all the synergies work around it. So I think this is a cool change. Again, not an incredible card. You're not going to be winning games just because Mr. Fantastic is on the board.
I watched you lose a game because Mr. Fantastic was on the board earlier. For the record.
It happens. But yeah, no, it's a good change. It's a positive change.
I think Mr. Fantastic wasn't ever really played for its power on location, right? One of the powerful things it kind of has, is we talked about this earlier, where you need to win 2 lanes, right? So if you've chosen the left and right location as the lanes you're going to try to contest, now you get to play a card that isn't necessarily going to try to even help you win that mid location, but you're opening up slots, right? So you're affecting a different lane, which is really important, because there are times in a game where you're like, where am I putting this card? Like, am I going to draw something better? So sometimes leaving those spots open, especially on turn 3, is really powerful, because then you can put more powerful cards in there in the future.
This change is amazing. This is like genuinely a brilliant change. No one talked about it. No one thought about it. No one, like, this isn't one that's been floating around the community forever. Sometimes when they make these changes, we find out, we're like, oh, like, people have been talking about that forever. Everyone just sort of ignored Mr. Fantastic. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. This change suddenly makes a card that was dead relevant. It's like they gave us a new card. I also really like this card with Iron Patriot, because a lot of the ways to win Iron Patriot are things like Negasonic and Juggernaut. And Mr. Fantastic says, thanks for wasting that card. I've got that power in that lane, as I was planning to all along, obviously. And if you played a card there on turn 1, now you're still probably ahead there. That's a really powerful effect. You can still do things with Moonstone with it. It's being severely underrated that this is a 2/7 with Ravona, which is just a lot of stats. Just a lot of stats. I love this change. I cannot speak highly enough of it. I think that this is absolutely incredible.
Poor Miss Marvel, though.
I mean, she could probably go. Could she go back to 1 card?
I think we should probably just start with getting the power back.
Yeah, go back to 4/5.
Cerebro 5 synergy or something like that, yeah.
I think she could go back to the 1 card thing.
I go with the same take. She can go back, because the broken time she had was when like Storm Lockdown was popular with Profex. So we don't see any Storm anymore. We don't see any Profex anymore. So I don't mind getting her back with her own stuff. She might be maybe a good Doom card for like Doom 2099 and the normal Dooms, but I don't
She
feel
can't
she
be
will
good
be
with the
as
Dooms.
broken. Yeah,
Like
that's what I mean.
2 Doombots going, yeah.
And
okay,
it feels she can go back, in my opinion.
I agree. And she's in Spotlights next week, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, right? So, I mean, there's no patch before then, but we could hope. No OTA before then, but we could hope. All right. Hela is redesigned from a 6/7 to a 6/9, and I'm not going to read her text because her text is written confusingly. She can only bring back 1 of each cost. What that means is she can't bring back 2 6s, so no Infinite and Magneto. But she can bring back a Magneto and an Iron Man, and Death is almost always its own cost. So, and a Death, and then that Black Cat. So Black Cat is like now extra Hela's best friend. So that's fundamentally what you're doing with this card. You're bringing back like 3 or 4 cards, 1 of each different cost. Ideally, a Death, a 6, a 5, and Black Cat. So, has anyone tested Hela? How do we feel about Hela?
Man, I don't know. So Hela is kind of on the. It's always been good, right? But Hela was on the fringes for a long time. Whenever it had this ability and could pull back sixes, right? Some things obviously made it more powerful, and it got a little bit out of control. But I don't know if this brings it back. Like that's a hard achievement to unlock, to make sure you have like one of each different cost. And the main power of this was obviously bringing back those late game cards. It was cheating, right? You wanted to basically cheat with this card. And I don't know how much cheating you're going to do if you're trying to discard a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And obviously you're probably not doing that, right? You're probably only looking at discarding 3, 4, 5, and 6s. But to accomplish that, so another piece of this too, right, is the targeted discard you could do with Hela. And I don't know how targeted you get. I don't know. It's a tough one. I don't. My brain says right now that it's not good. Going up 2 power kind of helps quite a bit, but a lot of times whenever you were playing Hela before, you were not really counting on winning the lane you were playing Hela in. So maybe that's now a new thing that you can possibly do with it having 9 power. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Toxic.
The part I liked most about Hela was like this small window where I could play Silver Samurai with her now, because Silver Samurai is now probably a decent discard card for Hela, because you can discard the Iron Man, you can discard a Gore, both are like different cost, and it feels so good to finally be able to play Silver Samurai. But on the same side, most of the time Hela didn't feel like that oppressive. I don't know, maybe it's because people didn't figure out a proper deck with her, but I still feel like she won't be as strong as she used to be, but at least she's now a little bit more fun with the ingredients you can play. I see Sword Master played, I see Silver Samurai played, so I see more discard cards being played now, but I don't think she will be a big issue right now.
I just want to note that they didn't do this because she was oppressive in the current meta. They did this because she was starting to be not played by anyone but Danish in the current meta. This was a way to get people to play what they consider a fun card, I think. Not like to nerf or do anything to a card that they considered overpowered. Pika?
Look, I'll just say this. I do not like Hela as a card in general, no matter what its form is. It's not my kind of a card. Playing against it, because, I for example, even today I played against a lot of Hela players. Look, yeah, it's not as powerful because you're not getting, slapped around with Infinite here and then Magneto over there and then the Giganto over there and things like that. So it's not as, the power output is not as high, sure. The thing that always bothered me about Hela was that you just don't know where the cards will go, and you can't calculate your power output in a calculated way, because you're like, I don't know, the Magneto could go on the Gore could go on the right, and there's no way I can catch this, but the Gore could also go on the left. So where do I put my cards? And you're just rolling the dice. It forces not only the Hela player to roll the dice, it forces your opponent to also roll the dice, and that's what I don't like about Hela, but it's a cool change.
Hela felt really strong. I played her a bunch last night. I played like 25 games with Hela, and a list I ended up making ended up really, really good. I went 6-4, but I should have went 8-2. One was just a bad location game, and one was Hela being Hela and throwing everything into the one location I had already won. So I think Hela is going to be very, very good with this change. I'm not sure that the all-in Hela is going to be the way. I think the way we're going to end up building Hela down the line is something akin to a Ghost Rider deck, where we're trying to, instead of like go all in and do things, we're trying to get back, like we just throw a Black Cat in the deck, and now we have a 19 power last turn play. And we have 1 or 2 other discard outlets. Silver Samurai for Gore makes a lot of sense here. For Gore / Iron Man makes a lot of sense here as a way to be like, okay, so I've got now, if I can play on the last turn by playing Hela, I can get Gore, which I could just play outright if I don't see Hela, and I can get Black Cat. Now I've got this incredible last turn play, and I don't need to be playing out like 17 cards, right? I don't need to hit all these different costs. I don't need to build my whole deck for that. It's just a thing I can do that can win games. That's going to be hard to beat. I think once we crack that code, Hela is going to be absolutely freaking busted. This version is going to be better, because the other version really, really benefited you saying, I discarded 7 things, this is my deck. I don't know if the new version really needs that. Like, you can run a fairly even deck and then a couple 5s and Swordmaster, right? You run Swordmaster, Silver Samurai, and Swordmaster, Silver Samurai, Black Hat, and Hela, and like you're there, right? Like you're at enough discard to really, and like you throw a Ghost Rider in there too, right?
You
So
still
like
throw
if
a
you don't see how
Hellcow
you
in
have other
there
options,
because you're not using that card on
yeah,
turn
sure.
6 anyways.
You could throw a Hellcow in there. You could throw a Black Knight in there. Although that's obviously not as good with the Silver Samurai. But like there's ways to work around this, that this becomes a thing that you do instead of the entire like orbit of your deck where you have to draw it or die.
You're almost talking
And
about
I
like
think that
a
that's where
Hela
we end up.
mid-range at that point, which seems really intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, look, some dude with a red hat is going to build that for me relatively soon. Unless Danish feels like it. I also have Danish's deck. Yesterday, the Fun with Time Sundays video, which is yesterday, as the people who listen on Podcatchers here, and a couple days from now, will be led by Danish's completely ridiculously good Hela deck, which is just a spoiler for anyone live now, a super giant version. I have one final thing to talk about before we move on from the OTA and onto datamined. The last question I really would like to address is bounce move has not been touched yet. And I know that in particular for ToxicSoulKing and Ika, that's a pain point. They're both on the European server, even though Ika is a Canuck now, which means that they have to play Sizer all the time. And then like because it's so prominent in that meta, it's now become not just Sizer, a million other people are playing it. And it's this pain point on particularly the European server. I play it a little bit here, but I play it once or twice per play session at most. What do we think of move bounce? And we'll kick it off with Ika so ToxicSoulKing can calm himself down.
Yeah, no, I play Sizer a lot. I think I see Sizer on ladder more than I see my wife. Yeah, no, look, it's a very, very, very oppressive deck, and it's more common. It's not just the top players. I do run into move bounce players all the time.
But I beat all the weak ones.
Yeah, look, it's look, if the things aren't going well and the person is not experienced in playing the deck, it's not too hard to beat. But it's also not too hard to play. You put Aranya down and then you move the Human Torch twice, and it's boom, 16 power. There you go, beat that. And you're like, oh, I have chi, I have this. No, they're gonna bounce it. They're gonna lose priority. They're gonna be playing that again. It's a very oppressive deck, but I know that it's not getting nerfed because people who, like we talked about, the 90% are not playing this deck, and if they are, they're not playing it optimally. So we're us, the top players, are in a very small bubble. Poor us. And we're suffering against move bounce, but it is what it is. It's too strong though. It is strong. If you want to get good at this game, by the way, invest into move bounce, play it, practice it, because this deck is very, very strong.
Toxic.
I mean, where should I start? I would have been even happy if they just say, okay, Aranya just buffs only +1, not +2. I would have had a little bit of a happy feeling in my stomach. I would be like, yay, they saw it. They finally witnessed it. Somebody told them. And now I'm just like, well, we get a Scream nerf faster than, or we get a Mr. Fantastic buff faster than we get a freaking move bounce nerf. I'm just like, and like the biggest thing, or the biggest downside being new, is I'm playing around like, let's say 10 to 20 times against Sizer per stream session. So I just, if I don't play my counter decks to him, I'm just getting beaten up. I'm so happy he's not doing like highlight channels. Otherwise, I will be there like more often than probably him, or almost himself. I don't know. The only funny thing is like, people start catching up to it. People see like, yo, that guy is almost now on his 4th way to be top 1 of the world with move bounce.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, right now I face a lot of other move bounce people, and weirdly enough, it's a little bit relaxing to play against them because they do so weird stuff. Sometimes it's just like, I know how Sizer would play it. That's definitely not how he would do it. It's a little bit chill now since people start to practice it. But I give the people like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Then they might figure out how the thing is, and then we have now Sizer and the mini Sizer army that's waiting for me and Ika.
I don't believe that people are going to get that good at it. We on the North American server, I've been on your stream plenty, both of you. But on the North American server, there's a lot of people who play it, and when I see people play it, I'm waiting for them to show what they have, right? And within like 2 or 3 moves, I go, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing." And like that doesn't mean I win, right? The deck puts out a lot of power, but that means I can stay. That means I can snap aggressively. That means I can like mess around, right? If they don't do anything like by turn 3, I'm like, what are we doing here? You should be able to be setting things up, right? You should be organizing your hand and figuring like, and when they don't, I'm just like, oh, I really truly believe that 95% of people, if not higher, are and like these people still probably have like 55% win rates with the deck. The deck is very strong. But I think most people are really bad with this. And I think like I watch Sizer play, and fairly often I'm like, I'm doing something wrong when I play this list. And I've got like a 65% win rate with it. So like it is genuinely not easy and requires you to know the meta, every matchup, every player, et cetera, in order to be really good with. That said, the top of the Infinite leaderboard is the highly engaged player base, and I think Second Dinner makes a huge mistake often by ignoring it. That engaged player base are often not only like content creators, but the people who spend on the game, the people who spread the word about the game and so on. And keeping that group positive, happy, spending should be a greater priority for them. And I would like to see move bounce nerfed as a result of that. I understand why they don't, but much like the lack of support for competitive play, giving the top end players something to speak positively about fairly consistently could really go a long way to changing the tone about the game. Eek?
That's actually a great point. And the thing that I find interesting is why they haven't nerfed move bounce is that if they did nerf move bounce, let's say they took Human Torch down to 1/1, that doesn't affect the low collection or low rank players that much. It really significantly affects the top tier players because we're talking about one nerf power to Human Torch is like 10-20 power nerf to the card if you're a good player, but it doesn't really affect the low rank players that much. So that's kind of why I'm surprised that they haven't really gone through with something a little bit at least. But it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. With the OTA out of the way, let's go back a couple days into the past and talk about the patch. Before we get to the data mines, though, I guess we should at least quickly address the card acquisition changes, which are a band-aid, which they are very, very loudly and consistently telling us this is not the long-term change. This is a band-aid. They are doubling the acquisition rate of Series 3 cards from 2 out of every 9 to 4 out of every 9. This means that Series 3 players will get 1 card every day, more or less. Like 6 out of every 7 days they get a card, which is a really, really great deal. Personally, and I'm just going to say this before, like this is editorializing, I think this is good enough. I don't even think this is Band-Aid. I think that's just that change does the job that we wanted to do. The other change, however, is a ridiculous Band-Aid. It is the tokens you get for a duplicate in Spotlight caches have gone from 1,000 to 2,000. That's significant, but obviously does not change card acquisition's major issues. Toxic. What do you think of these 2 changes?
Funny enough, it's funny that you say like the first one is like not Band-Aid, and I feel like the first one should only be the start to the whole thing, because if I compare like the Series 3 cards and how well used most of them are, it's just like you just rush through the Series 3 cards now a bit faster, but in the end you're still struggling to get like the good expensive cards we are getting, like, or a lot of content creators can get by week.
Right.
With that change, it's like, okay, you get now you're faster with the base game, but the end game is still like a big pain. So I feel like the second one is a more help to getting into the end game than the first one. But the only good thing I like about the first change is that maybe encourages the lower player base to keep on playing the game. Like I let like 4 or 5 friends of mine start the game, and they were all burned out because they got like only bad Series 3 cards. They don't want to grind as much. That could be like a good help to help the lower the starting players to stay with the game. But in the end, it's still going to be the same. Everybody will be Series 3 completed soon. And then it's again the question, how do I get my Series 4, Series 5 cards without spending like a big X amount of money for keys, for tokens, for anything?
So a thing that happens, and people request, because I do decks every day, right? So people request me doing low collection level decks. The problem is that because people get Series 3 at such varying rates, that's impossible, right? Like if I decide I'm going to make a really great Sarah list that has 3 cards in it, people get these Series 3 cards at such different times that there's almost no way to do that. That's why all of my videos have replacements for Series 4 and 5 cards instead of Series 3 cards. You have to sort of be almost done with Series 3 to be able to even really engage with the game. I think being able to rush through Series 3 in what should be about 3 months is a huge benefit. And I know 3 months seems like a lot, but A, you can spend your way through faster, right? But B, it was like 6 or 7 months before, which is an entirely ridiculously unacceptable amount of time to be able to not be able to engage in decks. I do think that this is like a major change. I also think that getting 1 new card a day just feels good. You know what I mean? Every day, you know, if you open the game and do your dailies, you're going to get a new card to play with, is a thing I think just genuinely, like, I remember the feeling very well of being like, I got Patriot, and now I can do this. Oh no, today I got, I don't know, Rock Slide. It was terrible at the time, I promise. I got Rock Slide, and now, like, what am I doing with that Rock Slide? So, like, just trust me. Yeah, sorry. I totally get the, like, this isn't enough theory, but I just think this feels like, if you're in it, you feel so much better. And hopefully we can get some Series 3 players commenting, because I know I have a lot of Series 3 viewers. So hopefully we can get some Series 3 players commenting to let us know what they think, so I'm not trying to speak for them. Ika?
Yeah, no, I don't have too much thoughts on the first one. I kind of agree with you, actually, Glazer. The second one is my bigger problem. Just scrap the system, please. It's just it's bad. The Spotlight Cache system is just bad, and I think they've dug themselves too deep to even recover from it. But I think it would be very brave of them and behoove of them to just completely redo the system. It sucks. Look, I had when I opened for Moonstone, I had a situation where I did the first one was a Call Obsidian, which I already have, and I was like, oh. 2,000 tokens. It sure is an upgrade, yeah, over 1,000 tokens, but is it really doing anything for me? Not really. And also, they're not open about. I mean, are they open? I don't want to like say anything that is wrong here, but they're not really open about the percentages of those caches and things like that. Like in that fourth one, not many people know.
Yeah. Explain it, please.
I will let you explain it because go ahead.
So you have a 2/3 chance. It rolls card series before it rolls card, and you have a 2/3 chance of getting a Series 4 card from that duplicate spot, and a 1/3 chance of getting a Series 5 card. So if you roll the Series 4 and you have all the Series 4, guess what? You're getting a duplicate. It's not even going to look for a Series 5 card.
Yeah, and that's bad. Let me just say that's straight up bad. The fact that they're not even communicative about that is shitty. Let's say. So yeah, whatever. It's an upgrade. Yeah, sure, 2,000 tokens, great, but just scrap the whole system, please.
Soon-ish.
Here's a couple things that I think that they could do with this that I think would be pretty impactful. One is, I think I know it's pretty impossible to look back and see how many cards somebody's opened, but maybe they do it per collection level or something, and just give some amount of refund of tokens to players who have opened so many at 1,000, right? So it would feel great for me if I got just blanket like 6,000, even if it was just 6,000. Hey, sorry we did this for so long. Here's 6,000. Go buy your own whatever Series 5 card you want. Boom. And I think that's just good faith for the community. Two, what I think they could do is if you open a Series 4 card, which we already said is a higher % drop rate, you get 2,000 tokens. And then if you open a Series 5 card that you already own, maybe you get 4,000 tokens, right? Something that gives you extra if you do happen to pull that Series 5 that you already own. And 3, maybe if you open a card you already own, you get a cool variant and you get to choose, like, do I want this variant or do I want the tokens for it? That would be like, those changes I think would go a long way to improve this. And I do definitely like that they said it's a Band-Aid fix. They're looking at ways to fix this. That's the hard touch point. On the improved Series 3 drop, that is so amazing. We've all had experiences with players who have talked about the burnout, and the burnout really comes around month 3, like right before you're finishing Series 3, where you're starting to get very serious about the game. You're missing like 1 or 2 cards from every deck, and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? This is going to drastically reduce that, especially because what you talked about getting a new card every day. Like there was times, like there was a time when Series 3, when I was grinding through, I'm like, oh my God, like I am, this feels terrible. And I don't know how many players have stopped playing in that Series 3 grind. So reducing that amount of time is pretty amazing.
What month of, let's be generous, 2025, do they fix card acquisition?
October.
Toxic?
May.
Ika?
Yeah, I would say like early summer.
Yeah, my guess was April or May.
You think they're gonna
like late
April?
April,
Fix
May.
it that soon?
I think so.
I think
They
that's
have to.
okay. Let's not say they will fix it. I think that
No.
the big thing that they have planned is that's when they will roll that out. Whether that fixes it or not is for debate. But that's, I think, the big plan is for that.
I think
area.
they can slap a Band-Aid on it long enough, and then the 3-year anniversary say like, we've fixed it, or like, here's.
I don't think they can wait that
Yeah.
long. I think the game will really be bleeding by then.
Yeah,
But I think they can also put
the-
more Band-Aids on it until then, right?
I think the sentiment that I see from other Twitch chats and my chat and Twitter is that this is the last chance.
Yeah.
Q1 of 2025. This is the one chance we're given.
So I also just want to know, they're going to fix it. This is going to get fixed. I truly believe that. Like from the bottom of my heart, that this fix is going to be positive and actually
Same.
make sense and work.
Question for you,
For who?
for really the group here.
Okay.
If a fix isn't necessarily a fix to the system, right? But the fix includes some way to just purchase cards. How do you feel about that? Even if it's kind of expensive, like the ability to just like, I want to play X deck. I want to go spend some money and I want those cards.
Isn't that something you can already do?
Not
By
really.
buying the cards with gold, you just have to re-roll it. You
Yeah.
re-roll the system, you buy the cards with
You
gold.
fundamentally can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I mean, not prohibitively expensive.
So that, like, if they just sell us the cards, it's going to be prohibitively expensive because they release one a week. A lot of the problem, I think, is the like visual of releasing one a week means you have to sell a lot because you're never selling multiples, right?
Yeah.
So like, but I don't think that's going to be the fix, and I don't think that is a fix. All right, let's move on from this depressing ass topic, even though, again, I am genuinely, truly positive about this long term, and talk about new cards. We can't actually talk about this one. I just want everyone to go, that's really cool. They are releasing Agamotto, who is a 6/12 at the start of the game. Shuffle X, whatever, spells, items, cards into your deck. It's unknown how many spells, but Agamotto looks super freaking cool. And if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch right now, you can see the what these spells look like. I am so excited for this card. They're all different costs. I would assume they're all not going to be 0 power, but we've got a 3/0, a 2/0, a 2/5, 3 5/0s. This is so cool. Am I insane that this looks so cool?
I think it looks awesome.
It looks cool. Yeah.
Every time they do this, it's a home run, right? Like this, like they're really Nico and Kate Bishop and like even Thanos. They're really good at this type of design, and I'm very excited to see more of it.
Can we see a 35 card deck now?
No,
it started 32, right? So I don't.
So we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
possibility.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
thoughts. I have thoughts.
When we talk about this card, it is Isan, who is a 6/13 coming out in spotlights, the first set of spotlights with Wiccan of all cards. What?
Yeah.
My throat is now acting up. Excuse me. I'm going to drink water when I'm done talking. 613 legendary, and Ika can tell us what legendary means. He'll go first, or what we think legendary.
I think
means.
I know
At
what
the
it
start of the
means.
game, if all your cards have different powers, give them +2 power. Take it away, Ika.
All right, I'll just open up with what I think the general consensus is on the legendary, is that I think this tag will be given to some of the big bads, as they would call it before, and I think there will be a deck restriction where you just can't put them in the same deck. Say Arishem and Thanos, you can't put them together. That's it. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And now, as for the card itself, oh boy, this is no way coming out this way. There's absolutely no way this is coming out this way. This is too strong. We're talking about just without the card itself, what is that, 22 power? And that's not even including cards like Mysterio, where you can triple that, or Iron Man, where you can double that. There's no way, right? There's no way.
I think they are. They're gonna nerf. Like, I'm just gonna let you know, they gonna nerf this. Like, right? I think it's releasing this way.
Okay, 613.
No. Yeah, I don't think it's releasing in this
because they
form.
want it to be a weird power so that you can run Magneto and shit.
It's just
exactly.
But why? Like, why can't it be a 6-3?
Because then you can't play a 3 power card.
It's insane.
It's gonna end up a 6-11.
Make it like a 6-2.
I think just make it so it's not +2, just +1 at least.
Then it's not playable.
That wouldn't be helpful
Of course, it would be.
Imagine you have to run 11 other cards with different costs or different power there. Do you think you can find like synergy between 11 different cards?
Yes, I built a deck already. Check this out. Hood, right? Hood. Mm-hmm. You can put Wasp in there or Kitty, whatever. You put Mysterio. Now you can play Mockingbird. Now you can play Sasquatch. Now you can put Iron Man in there. You can put Galacta in there. The deck builds itself. It's not too difficult. Sure, why not? You can put Kate Bishop. You get extra cards as well. It's not the only difficult curb I ran into was 3 power. There's a lot of good 3 power cards. 2s, 3s, 3/3s. Other than that, it's like it's not that difficult.
Surfer without Surfer friends doesn't seem terrible. Your 3/2 is Brood. Your 3/4 is Shaw. You run Galacta. And then you don't have to be married to just running 3s.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because you're not running Surfer proper. You're just getting Surfer's bonus on everything you play.
Yeah. I mean, there is a hidden downside to this, right? Like, a good player will see you drop the 2/3, and you're like, okay, there's no way they can Shang-Chi me anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So a good player can take a lot of information from this. So I think that's what they're trying to do. Is like
opposite of arishem?
Exactly the opposite. Yeah. So in a way, it's cool that they're trying to balance out that, but I'm hopeful that they will find that good in between, because this is too strong right now.
I think you can put this at a 6 awkward power level. Like, make somebody have to make that tough decision of what 10 power cards they're going to put in their deck, right? So if this is a 6-10, that takes off a lot of good cards, right? If this is a 6-8, that takes off quite a few good cards.
That's it. I don't think there's that many good 8s.
I don't know. Why is it 13 though? It's better than a stock Hulk.
This is an absurdly strong card. Toxic, what do you think?
I said it on stream. Like, I feel like there will be one good deck for him, and it won't be like changed at all. Like, give the community like 2 weeks, and we'll figure out the strongest deck with him. And
3 days.
Okay, probably, yeah. If the people
weekend missions, probably. Weekend missions, we have motivation.
And we just have the one list. It's like Hela. It's like move bounces something, but it's just like we will know exactly which card he will get when. It's like probably almost no big surprise. Maybe just small details. Maybe just a random tech card somewhere. But I have the feeling it will be one strong list there. Ika says no.
Predictability is only a downside when your deck is not powerful. If your deck is powerful, do something about it. Like Tribunal. Like, hey, I'm big. You can't beat my power, and you know exactly what I'm going to do. can he beat me?
Well,
good luck.
You could also generate cards with this, right? Like, if your 4 is Coulson, or you're running Kate, like you suggested earlier, right? Like, all of a sudden, a lot of these predictability problems wander away. Okay, let's look at the spotlights that come with this one, because I'm impressed as all hell. They are spending a lot of time this month, finally, giving us cards that go together in spotlights. And the cards that come with Isan are Beta Ray Bill and Wiccan. And I think Beta Ray Bill is an incredible card with Isan. All of a sudden, it's a 4/16. You've got your 6 in Beta Ray Bill. You've got now an 11 power Jane Foster, right? Like, that's serious power. Like, I think that that's going to be absolutely amazing. While there's at least some possibility that a Wiccan curve matches this, right? Like, you'd probably have to go Quicksilver Domino and give up the 2 and 3 spot, but there's at least some chance that that ends up being a reasonably meta option for how to handle Isan. I'm also genuinely thrilled that Wiccan is finally coming to spotlights again, because people need to own Wiccan. It is maybe the best card in the game. This is an incredible week, and if you don't have Wiccan, please open. And if you do have Wiccan, then figure out another way to get Isan. Toxic, what you got?
The variants are amazing. I love all of these variants. They look really good. I'm kind of happy they bring out Wiccan kind of early, because if I think about the fact, when did we get a gwenpool spotlight? We never got one. So I'm happy they prioritized Wiccan first to give us out him early, because he's so good. You can even he's probably not as easy for like lower collection people, but it can still help you out with that. If you have a Quicksilver and you run some 2 or 3 drops, you can play a Wiccan, and you have maybe even with low collection can bring up a good Wiccan list. Beta Ray is such a slept-on card. They buffed his hammer, but I feel like it's just like people are not trying to cook with him. It's just like, why shall we try stuff with him if we can just play move bounce? So it's, again, people will take some time, but they will run Beta Ray Bill as well. And yeah, you guys said it. Isan will be good. We will find the one Isan deck probably soonish. Like, I see Glazer doing like a YouTube video where it says like, oh, the spotlights are out, and like in 2 days he has like, okay, we found the best Isan deck. Well, that's it with Isan. We are waiting for the next card.
That seems about right to me.
Yeah, it's cool. I like this. Wiccan is a great card, and you know why it's also a great card? Because it teaches newer players, if you're newish to the game, a core mechanic of the game, which is get ahead, stay ahead. That is so fundamental to this game, and it literally forces you to play like that. So it's a fantastic card, and I'm glad that more people will have access to it.
Yanni?
I actually don't. The Wiccan's the only variant that I actually like here. The Isan one looks terrible.
Really? I like it so much. I don't need another Beta Ray Bill, but I like the Isan.
But the Wiccan one is
Why
so
do you like
good,
the
though.
Isan one? It's
Wiccan.
terrible.
I love it. It's so cool looking.
I guess.
All right, let's vote. Toxic, yay or nay on the Isan?
Yay, it looks like toxin stuff or toxic stuff, so come on.
Ika, yay or nay?
I'm with Gandhi, actually.
We are split 50-50 chat. I'm gonna need the chat to sound off on whether that Isan is really cool or not. That Wiccan is incredible. That Wiccan's one of the best variants in the game.
We need a poll from a mod.
Yeah. So if I have a mod, if Nick is paying attention enough, let's get a poll going. All right. Let us also move on to the next card, which is going to be Starbrand, who is a 6/8. At the start of the game, +2 power for each card in your deck with 10 or more power. That seems like it's probably good with Isan, friends. Also, didn't we just get game start as a keyword?
Yeah, that must be old.
Which one triggers first?
Isan,
it should be Isan, right?
So Isan, if you have an 8 power card in your deck, does that then count for Starbrand?
I'm not sure. I don't see why I wouldn't.
That'd be dope.
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do we think of Starbrand Toxic?
Why? Why do I have to keep suffer with Surtur stuff? He was gone for like a season. I didn't have to pay attention to that deck. And now they are like, wait, Surtur was overpowered. Okay, we changed it. We changed Typhoid. Oh, you know what? Why not bring out Thaddeus, Ares, and Starbrand in like 2 different seasons so we can live Surtur all and all again? Like, why do they have to do this to me? Like Starbrand, I don't know. I try to count his stats, but with like 410 drops, he's already a 618. Like he's already probably bigger than a Red Hulk without the opponent knowing you have Starbrand in hand. While Red Hulk at least shakes in the opponent's hand and says like, "Yeah, I'm here." Here you can just play worst case scenario, your opponent just slams a Scar for 10 power, 0 power down. Oh, and on the other lane there's just like a 618. Like, yeah, have fun with that, I guess. Like, I don't understand why. What obsession do they have with Surtur? What obsession do they have with Move Bounce? Why don't they support my decks?
Because your decks are mid-range and everything they release supports your decks. Ika?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's boring card to me. I don't think that the Surtur style decks need more support. Maybe this doesn't come out the way it is right now. It's a little bit boring. It's just a boring card to me. Like, you don't have to work for it. And the deck building restriction isn't even like, oh, what creative way can I build a deck to make this work? So, yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Is it like that much better than just running Blob in these decks? Like, it's a little better, right? But is it really that much?
It is.
Because you can play it in a Cosmo lane?
Yeah, and it's it's there's one less tech card you have to worry about technically.
Yeah.
I also think it's better
And you
because
run
you're not
Cosmo.
reliant upon Blob doing its thing, right? Not just Cosmo, but if you get milled out, or if, I don't know, you just happen to pull the wrong cards and Blob's a 13 power instead of 18.
Yeah, Blob is unreliable technically. Like, you know, it's at least 13, but sometimes you might need exactly 16, and this card will give you exactly 16,
And,
you know?
and by unreliable, I don't necessarily mean like you should be able to generate like roughly what you think the Blob's going to be as you're watching it, but unreliably in the deck building phase, which is like, I always know what this is going to come out as.
Yeah, I guess. I think that we're sort of overblowing how good this is going to be, but I'm prepared to be wrong.
I don't think it's like busted good, and like maybe maybe I sounded like I was saying it was busted good. It's not going to be like amazingly good. It's just I feel like it's just, I don't feel like the space needs this kind of card. Like, we got Agamotto, a cool card, and then here's a big 6.
We just went from Doom being like pretty easy to handle most of the time to Starbrand is probably, with the Surtur archetype, pretty easy to handle. It's maybe it's just me, but yeah.
Look, I hate Surtur. Like, hate Surtur decks. I don't disagree. I just don't think those decks' problem is having too little power. And that's the only problem this card is really going to solve, right?
I think cards like this do help take skill, like it will help newer players more, right? Obviously, good players will run the deck better, but a player running a Surtur deck has a higher chance of beating, a player doing move bounce stuff, right? If they're not as skilled with that type deck. Which deck can you pick up and play immediately? You can pick up and play Starbrand. You can pick up and play Surtur deck. You can't pick up and just play and expect to win a move bounce deck. And that being said, decks like this are also easier to beat for an experienced player because it's very predictable. You know what they're going to do, what their output range is for the most part.
The poll was completed. Let's wait for Nick to tell us what the answer was. But also, yeah, I get it. I'm not like, I think Ares is a better card by a fair amount. Like, I'm not sure if I have 4 10 power cards, right? That makes this a 16, right?
Yes.
So this needs 4 to be worth it, because I don't think if I'm playing 3, I'm not sure how many decks I really want to run 4 or 10 power cards in.
Surtur.
Unless this works with Esau, in which case. Yes, outside of Surtur, I mean. And like we know what Surtur is, right? Like I just don't think Surtur is going to be the best deck in the meta. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being naive.
That's
Can
what
we
I'm
bring it
getting at
somehow
too,
into
right? So
Thanos?
if this card can be added and Surtur is not the best deck, then why does it matter? Some amount of people will enjoy it. It's going to be a fine card. People are going to win games because they played Starbrand. And if it's not the best deck in the game, it's no harm, no foul.
The yays take it, by the way.
That it's
so
good.
Pika and Gunnier is always wrong.
Whatever.
So Toxic said, "Can we run this in Thanos?" I don't know. You play more Thanos than I do. Like, are we going back to Cull Scar Thanos? Like, I didn't think that Thanos is nearly as good as the Control-y versions.
Maybe, like, it depends on, like, in which direction the meta shifts, but if it's, like, more, like, Surtur stuff and more, like, I don't know, Doom stuff, we can try to outmuscle them. And it never was that successful, but I really enjoyed, like, the package with, like, Lockjaw and, like, a Jeff Vision stuff. We can move out of the Lockjaw lane if you get one of those cards with the stones. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of more of that, because that means we can run Cull in it, we can run Magneto in it. We have Thanos, we already have 3 cards in, so just now find like a 4th card and we might have a
Arrow.
deck.
Yeah, you're ditching Gore, though, potentially. I don't know. Like, I feel like Gore is still bigger in Thanos. Like, Gore is like 20-something power in Thanos,
True.
right? I don't know. It's worth considering. Starbrand, because they are, again, doing things right, comes with Scar in a spotlight. Holy shit. They finally figured it out. Props to Second Dinner for that one. It also comes with Phastos, which is a card that suddenly I like. I don't love it, but I like it in Surfer. So, the Scar variant is awesome. I don't like the other two, but that's neither here nor there.
Wait, hold on. Can we just stop for 1 second? You like the Eson variant, but you don't like this Starbrand variant?
No, that's Red Hulk.
Oh my god.
They stuck a Starbrand.
Sure, whatever, but it still looks cooler than that Eson did.
I don't give a shit if it looks cool. It's the wrong card. The Phastos is okay, I guess. I don't like his face. Feels weird to me.
Why are you touching his face?
All right. I don't know. It just looks a little strange. It looks like almost like he's wearing a helmet.
Feels weird. I'm just making a joke about you touching his face.
Shut up.
I digress.
All right, Toxic. Toxic, what you got?
I'm happy about Phastos. I don't own any Phastos variants. That hurts my collection hard, so I will probably get that.
Me too.
I don't feel like we need necessarily another Scar variant. Like, I feel like I already got, like, in the past 3 weeks, second year through like 4 against my head. I will probably get at the end of the season the one from New Verse as well. So I don't know why they give out so much Scar.
Well, because you're a whale, sir. That's called being a whale. That's the whale track he's referring to. Just for the record, I buy everything. Why are they giving me more things to buy when I buy everything?
But most of them are coming from Spotlights, no?
No, like, he's only been in Spotlights one other time.
Yeah, but we had Scar a lot, like, recently in the Spotlight. So is it just me? What? Damn.
Once. There was just a hip in the for 700 gold in the shop, I believe. Which is the one I use, obviously.
Maybe I should start to check my bank account and stuff.
Don't do that. You'll be very sad. We can't afford to lose another streamer. Ika.
I don't have too many comments. It's cool. I like, whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just another win. I think lining up cards is great. People should be able to open spotlights and get multiple cards for a deck. That's very cool.
Yeah, that is not going to stop here, by the way. As we get to Firehair. Firehair is a 2/2. You can move this once. When this card moves, revive one of your destroyed cards here. Hey, Ika, what do you think of Cave Woman Jean Grey?
Okay, so this is interesting. It seems weak right now. It seems if we were to plug this card right now in the meta and we were to start cooking, I don't really see a competitive deck you can make with this. But I have a theory that I think some of the spells, or at least maybe one of the spells of Agamotto, will do something that helps this card. That's my running theory here. Usually the season pass card gets like really rejuvenized with another card that comes out later on, and since we don't know what Agamotto spells do, we can't really theorize on that. But because of how weak this seems, that's my theory. Because other than that, like, I don't really have too many. I'll say this: the problem with move cards, remember, is that moves happen before you do your turn.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an idea of like doing something with like Zola or something like that, and then moving and reviving that, it's not gonna work. So there's that kind of a restriction. So yeah, I don't know. It seems weak to me, but hopefully there is other synergies that we're missing. Basically,
I know what to do with it, but I'll wait. Toxic, what you got?
At first, I was like my first idea was like you can preactive counter like a Shang or something, but that's like probably too weak. You are not getting a card just to preactively play
You
against
can't
that.
because of the way the timing of move.
So the next idea was like maybe like with the first inhabitant of the Phoenix Force, we might start to cook with Phoenix Force and Tuccrr. Like I don't know how good this deck will be, but like maybe some. Does she work with Nimrod? Can you like destroy Nimrod and get another Nimrod back? Or is Nimrod
if you
not
can get Nimrod out early or play Magic.
We play Magic usually. Like I love to play Magic and the Phoenix Force list, so maybe we can do something like that, and then we just have Nimrods everywhere. But I still don't know exactly about her, to be honest.
All right, Gunny, do you mind if I just say what they want us to do with her?
Sure.
So I don't know if you know this guy named Jet. Has anyone here heard of Jet? Jet, I don't know. Anyone know Jet? Jet plays Phoenix Force and everything. And there was a point when Misery came out that Jet had this Darkhawk Phoenix Force list. In that list, one of the main things to do was to use Misery on Black Widow. That doesn't work anymore. You can't do that. But the other thing you would really use that Misery on was Cassandra Nova, and then you would Phoenix Force that. That works just fine. That's a really big Cassandra Nova, and it's giving -3 to everything left in the deck. That's a triple triggered Nova with -3 to everything left in the deck for playing this 2-drop and then dropping a Misery. You can also obviously use it for occasional extra demony bullshit, right? Like that's going to be a thing that you can do because if this is a card that gets played with Misery. But I think the two main things you want to do with it are Cassandra Nova and Sage. Because if you can blow those up with your Misery, you're now getting multiple triggers, and then your backup plan for those decks is getting a shit ton of rocks with your Korg / Rock Slide, which isn't as good as getting a shit ton of Widow's Kisses, yes, but it is still ridiculously frustrating when you've got this giant Cassandra Nova now because there's a million rocks in there, right? Or Sage or whatever, and you've now got a really, really big Darkhawk because now you have so many rocks in their deck as well. I think that's where this goes.
Question: how does revive work? Because I just recently found out, like, if you discard stuff, Fenris revives your discarded stuff and you can't get it back. Does it mean, like, you destroy a Cassandra, you can decide between Cassandra will be revived by Fire here or by Phoenix Force, or can you still do both? Or does, like, the
No,
order
one or the other. You cannot do both. But you could, at that point, Zol it if you were so inclined.
I mean, in that case, you could also just run this in a mill deck. Mill decks already prefer to run a Misery, so you can, if you get extra cable or something like that, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is like so here. Let's go forward one sec. They thought of the Cassandra Nova thing. She comes with Cassandra and Nico. Nico with her destroy spell, Cassandra with her ability. Like this, I'm just gonna say this isn't an accident. This is meant to be like that style of Phoenix Force deck that they, I think, liked. They just didn't like that Black Widow was completely toxic in it. This is their attempt to bring it back. Gunny, want to take us?
If this card said activate instead of move, how would you feel about it?
It's the second Phoenix Force at that point.
So I mean, that's the best way we can compare it. Like, this is an activate card. Obviously, it's not.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I see what you're saying. Right? In a way, it is.
The timing is so different, though.
I get that. Right? I get. But what I'm saying is, like, think of this as activate. How powerful is activate? If this card said activate, obviously, I think it would just be different, right? You can't move it into locations that you want it to go to. They're maybe closed off. But the timing obviously different because you can activate whenever the heck you want to. But it still has the same problem that activate does, which needs to be played before turn 6, right? You have to set up the trigger. It's not something that you could just get on the turn that you want it to happen, which is like Phoenix Force. You can, like, you're going to play Phoenix Force, the thing's going to happen immediately. But yeah, I do think it's pretty powerful, especially if you set it up right. There's going to be whiffs, though. Whiffs are going to happen.
I think you can build your deck for largely there to be no whiffs, although you're going to have to be careful of like, oh no, those squirrels got destroyed. But that's like, welcome to Phoenix Force in the first damn place, right? Like that's a thing you have to worry about anyway. So I think this is going to be like bad but fun. All right. Fire Hair comes with Cassandra and Nico. What do we think of both the cards it comes with and the variants? Tox?
I don't like the golfing ET. I like Fire Hair, but yeah, I don't know why ET is suddenly golfing.
That's what Cassandra Nova looks like.
Yeah.
I think these variants are bangers.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I like all three, except the Fire Hair is very orange, like aggressively orange.
Wait, there's other two variants other than Fire Hair? I couldn't notice.
Because she matches your hat.
That's why. No, they're cool. I like them.
I'm happy that Cassandra's in Spotlights. I think it's a card that people should own.
This is a great week if Fire Hair's good and they don't own one or both of these cards. Like, oh my god, this is a rockstar week.
Oh, and Agamotto shuffles them in your deck, right? The spells.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, Cass, right there, even more powerful.
Yeah, Cass to counter Agamotto.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm the most excited about the Nico because with the newest event we have in Snap, where lower collection people get X23, and now they get the last big card in the Spotlights with Nico, so they can now play a fully functional destroy deck. Okay, they have to wait 2 months now, but
you don't need Nico to play it. She just makes it better
by a ton. Yeah,
I don't know about a ton.
If I see that
like she's not pivotal,
I just snap instantly. Like there's nothing
sure.
Back.
But like one, you have to draw her on turn 1, and then 1 out of every 7 times you draw her. You know what I mean?
I'm a Wiccan main. I always draw my 1-drops on 1. What do you mean?
Well, yes, that's why you like Quicksilver so much. We established this. So, any further thoughts about this week? Because I love this week.
Firehair seems cool.
No. Yeah, I like the card. I like the design. I'm not sure it's good yet. All right, we don't know what the fuck Khonshu is. Khonshu is a 2/1. We don't know what it does. We know that there is a datamined card called Khonshu Waxing and another one called Khonshu Waning that both have the text when the card is destroyed plus 10 chance to Hulk out. So, everyone loved Bruce Banner so much. Let's lean further in. Any thoughts, or just like, please don't do it?
I have no thoughts.
It's probably just a filler, right? Like I can't imagine, like, they bring out now, like, let's say Fire here for Phoenix Force. If they don't bring out Khonshu for Moon Knight, I will just riot. Like, they can't do this. It has to be some discard specific.
Anything else, or are we good?
2/1 is like an interesting step line. 2/1 means like he needs a really good effect. Like you just bring out a 1 power
Bruce.
card.
Like Bruce Banner. 2/1s are always great.
2 energy, 12 power card. I don't see an issue.
Yeah, I don't know what this card is. Cool. I really like the Khonshu design.
This can't be its ability. Like, Khonshu has nothing to do with Bruce Banner.
I think they're just using a keyword of some sort.
I don't know. Khonshu comes with Cersei, who hates me, so I hate her, and comes with Scorn, who, if you like discard, you should play. Let's start with Ika, who played a bunch of Cersei yesterday and then cut it because the card is terrible. It's not terrible, it just is mean. What do we think of this?
I like the variant. I think all 3 variants look very cool. I think Khonshu might just be like a discard card.
I think so too, because it actually, like, thematically goes with Moonstone, and I don't know.
And yeah, exactly. So if you're putting Scorn in there, there must be some reason, right? So yeah, theory-wise, it's probably something to do with discard, and I like the variants too, all of them. Cersei's an odd one. Like, as a card itself, it's But the variant is very nice.
I feel like I love the concha variant so much. Like I would pay like 20 keys for that variant. I'm not gonna lie. That avatar will be amazing.
Well, we
That
established that he
variant is
completes the
amazing.
whale track every month, so it's not as impressive as it sounds.
I need that Khonshu. Like, I don't even care about Scorn. Scorn is good variants. Cersei looks cool though. Like, I like that. It's that the Cersei will look amazing in golden, but the Khonshu, that's something I'm really excited about. Like, I don't care how good or bad it is. He will get God splitted.
I could see Khonshu having some kind of ability where it's discarded and comes back in some way, shape, or form. Because Khonshu's abilities are like superhuman strength, superhuman durability, and like basically he's immortal.
He's a god, yeah. He's the Moon Knight god. I don't know. I don't really give a shit what he does. We'll get there when we get there. Like, sometimes the cards make sense as to what they do, and sometimes, like Victoria Hand works with shield cards, but she gives them power. That's what she does. Okay. All right. Yeah. If you don't own Scorn, you should probably get Scorn. At this point, I think Scorn's just one of the better cards to own. The other cards suck, or at least Khonshu doesn't exist yet, and Cersei sucks. Sunday, I'm doing a tier list of every Series 4 and 5 card, and I want to see how low chat will let me put Cersei. All right, the card we're probably getting for free in March, or maybe even April, I guess. February, is Cobra. Cobra is 2/3, activate, switch an enemy card here that didn't start in your opponent's deck to your side. So basically, he's like reverse Viper for generated cards. Although he'll also work with like a Monster Island monster, or like it doesn't have to have been generated in hand. So like Thanos stones, all sorts of shit like that. What do we think of Cobra? Besides me wanting to do a Cobra Commander voice, and knowing I can't, and being a little bit sad about it. Cobra. Yeah, terrible. Tox.
He will be buffed to switch the highest power enemy card here. Otherwise, it's just too random and too meh. Like if Victoria is not going to be a big thing, okay, it will be probably. But even then, like I don't feel like he'll make the cut if it's not like Viper. Like I was really good when she gave the opponent like your lowest power card. He will be probably really good if you take the highest power card, because it's still going to be hard to activate and do something with him. Because let's be honest, you have to since it's activated on reveal, you have to play him at least on 5. And if your opponent didn't play his big card there, he might just go on another lane. So hard to pull off, I guess.
Nico.
Yeah. Cool. I think it's a meta call. They want Agamotto to be counterable, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Not much. Just a bit way better than obviously what it was. So good on them. But yeah, I don't know. This is probably just a free card, right?
At some point in time, they're going to release a card that says something like ridiculous stats, say like maybe 3/7, 3/8, something like that. But you also put a copy on your opponent's side of the board. And then that would be really cool, right? You're taking the downside of giving your opponent a good thing and bringing it back to your side. That card is coming. I don't know when, but they will do it. They will make you give your opponent a good card on their side of the deck, and getting it back yourself will be pretty sweet.
This could have some reasonable, like semi-reasonable synergies with Luna Snow. Outside of Luna and like certain metas, I don't really care about it. If you use this on a Luna lane, you play this, then you play Luna on it, you can immediately activate it. You're going to steal, they get no extra energy, you get 2 extra energy the next turn. That one of the 2 snowballs explodes, you can't play there again, but now you've successfully got 1 plus 2 energy the next turn, and then plus 1 energy the rest of the game. It's not bad. It's not bad. I don't see much else use for this, and I don't think Luna is good, so I don't see that being amazingly useful. Which is to say, I think they're very comfortable giving us useless cards for free. Because I've got King Eitri in my collection, Gathering Dust. Although I don't think Lasher is like bad, it's just not quite good enough to play.
I think we talked about this when we had Glenn on the channel, or sorry, on the podcast, which is like their ability to give out cards that are what I'd like to call uncommons, right? Cards that people would not be excited about opening in a spotlight cache. Giving them to us for free is a great way to do that. They want to introduce cards to the game. Let's get them in a different way, shape, or form. And also on top of that, does not make people feel forced to play in an event they possibly don't want to participate in.
Fair. All right. We got one more card to talk about, and then we're on to the final sections. They murdered my bird. Second Dinner truly understands that birds are food, not friends. They have changed Redwing from a 2/1 that is a bounce card to a 3/3 that makes me sad. The first time this moves, add a card from your hand to the old location. What do we have for Redwing? Redwing has no innate move, by the way. You have to move it with another card. Ika.
Yeah, they're very different. Better overall card, probably.
No.
Yes.
No fucking way. The previous version was fucking broken.
I think this is pretty good too. Probably works really well in like Dracula dump decks. Some sort of anything
the
to
Surtur
utilize
Heimdall stuff.
Heimdall. Yeah, Heimdall, something like that. Pulling out your getting a Sakar basically is pretty strong, I think. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Stocks?
I don't know if I like him as a 3/3, to be honest. Like, would he be too broken if it would be like a 2-drop, like a 2/2 or something? Because the thing is, like, how do you enable the card? You most of the time use like a... Okay, maybe Handle, but I was more thinking like drag down direction would be like Ghost Spider.
I think you're running Heimdall.
But
yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know. He might be fine. There will be probably some interesting decks with him, but he will be probably on like if nobody's coming up, he will be probably pretty fast be buffed. Like, I don't see him be played as much. Maybe like we play the old size of main list is coming back, and suddenly you just don't play only Heimdall alive, but maybe you just play now and Tribunal as well. So you have like 3
I don't
big
think you
sixes.
can do that.
You don't think? You move him with Heimdall and you can get like another 6-drop if you're lucky out.
No, I get it. I just don't. I don't like.
Oh, because of the clock aspect.
I don't think there's a turn to just play a 3/3. Like, what are you cutting, Cosmo? Like, that seems like a rough idea. You don't have bounce, so you're not throwing cryo.
Like
you know what I mean?
Or something? Like, wasn't there like a filler card?
Yeah. I just didn't like Copycat as a filler card. I get it. I don't know. You could try it. It's not like terrible. It's just, I don't know. Now you're cutting 2 cards though, because like you're using Redwing in that Copycat spot, and you're now cutting like what, Doctor Strange? Oh no, Doctor Strange isn't in it. Cloak. You can't cut Cloak. And there was that point where it cut Torch and ran Infinite. You can try and go more all in on that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like this fucking card. I just don't like this card.
It's just the thing, like most of the cards you play to move him will just clock you up even faster. Like Ghost Spider, Strange, and you have Iron Fist and Aranya Web. But from 5, 2 will just almost clog you up your whole lane. And you can't even control which card you get out. Like, worst case scenario, you just get like a 1-drop or something out, and you just
yeah, really. Well, it's either Heimdall, at least in my head. It's either Heimdall, or if you're running one of those like Infinity decks that throws them at a weapon, it could have a home there. And Dracula Dump, I guess, is fine. It's harder to use, but doable. Gunny, any thoughts about the shitty bird?
Not really. I just don't see it. It sounds like too much setup for too random of an effect.
Yeah.
Like, so this needs to be what, a 3/7 to be good, to even be considered like something you did was worthwhile.
Well, but then you're also using another move enabler on it. So unless it's Heimdall, you're using an extra card.
Because you don't want to put in a move deck, because then you're not moving the cards that you want to move. I'm not moving this instead of, I don't know, like Vulture.
Torch. Yeah.
Would he be broken if he can move by himself like a Nocturne?
Yes. Completely.
I mean, they could go higher, like a 4, let's say 4/2. Then it's like this an annoying thing. But
sure. If he's a 3/3 and he can move himself, he's broken.
Yeah. But at least
I think the real drawback is using your move on something that doesn't really pay off the same way. It's almost, you know what this almost sounds like? This almost sounds like a Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
right? Like good, it can do some good stuff. I've made a deck that actually used 2099 really well. So there's obviously potential, but you're moving 2099 instead of something else that you probably would want to be moving.
Yeah,
and the effect
I don't
is
like
pretty random, the same way 2099 is.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
2099
like
still
it.
needs to be updated to destroy the highest power card in a lane.
Really, but the amount of work you have to put in that damn card, agreed.
We're gonna play
Make
a fun deck. We're gonna play Penny Parker with Redwing and Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah,
One will move probably.
Well, there's no turn to put Redwing to put Spider on 2099, right?
Except with Magic again.
Magic is terrible, sir. I don't understand this fascination with Magic. I don't know what meta you've been playing in, but I face
Did you
Snowguard
see
every
the
third
newest
game.
Magic variant? I have to
Yeah,
use that card. It's freaking awesome.
All right, you can use the card, and I will just continue to snap and then drop Snowguard.
Can we have anti-magic, which is like make the game 5 turns instead of 6?
No. Let's continue with that idea. And once I can figure out where my mouse went. All right, there we go. We are on our variant of the week, and for some reason, it's Mr. Fantastic. Hard to imagine why. Mr. Fantastic, we have 3 variants chosen. We have first Mooster Fantastic, the moose version of Mr. Fantastic. Who chose that one?
I sure did. The card just makes me laugh. It's so funny. So a lot of the cards that I choose, like I'm a big damn hip fan. Like I just like seeing funny cards that make me happy. I didn't grow up much into comic books and whatnot, so I actually almost chose the variant on the far right just because it does look really cool. But in general, I just like seeing funny cards, and Mooster Fantastic is hilarious.
Ika. Oh wait, no. Toxic. You were a Mooster, right?
I was Moose as well, yeah. After Gunny didn't like Isam, I was asking myself why. But now at least he came back with a good taste with Mr. Fantastic, I guess.
Thank you.
There you go.
So what's your reason?
Ika.
Is it the same kind of reason? Like just hilarious?
Yeah, it's like it's just awesome. Like we don't have a lot of animal stuff, and they look all amazing, and they're at least not creepy. Like imagine you are playing like me, snapping at 4 in the morning. It's dark everywhere, and suddenly like a creepy Mr. Fantastic with like 10-meter fingers, or like the ink pop is watching there. Like those are nightmare materials.
All right, so anybody trying to counter ToxicSoulKing, make sure you're playing all the creepiest cards in your deck, and there you go.
It's amazing that his name is ToxicSoulKing, and he's like the nicest person, and everything toxic he totally hates. Ridiculous. All right, Ika, which did you pick?
Yeah, I picked the best one. The Mr.
Which is?
Creepy Fingers.
Creepy Fingers!
1602 variant, because, he's reaching your wallet. Look, what's scarier than a guy who can stretch his arms when he has a sword?
That's not. Also. He's not stretching. He's like, I'm going to keep that one close to me. This is the one I used forever.
Yeah, no, it's a cool one. I like it. Yeah, that's all I got.
So I like it because it's creepy, but it feels like if someone could actually stretch, like try and picture that. How creepy would that shit be? Like it feels right?
All right, so I'm just looking at this card now. I think one of the creepiest parts about this card is how detailed like the fingers and the arm is. Like if this was done in like a more like cartoony style, not as creepy, but like there's just too much detail in those fingers.
I chose Ink Pulp. I ran the Creepy Fingers Fantastic until Ink Pulp. I love the colors on the Ink Pulp, and that one feels exactly like Mr. Fantastic feels to me in comics. Giant science machine that's ill-defined in the background, stretching into action. I love it. I really love it. I wish there was a good Future Foundation version. The Future Foundation version is good, but it's like creepily skinny. Like it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Fantastic as the maker would be great.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. No, just make her the maker.
Yeah.
All right, ToxicSoulKing. Why should our wonderful viewers follow you?
There are probably not a lot of people that are as passionate about Snap as me on Twitch. Like there are barely people that go every day live for like 4 to 8 hours, stream it, even though they lose like 250 SP with AGFR, they keep on playing. I care about the game a lot, I love to talk about variants. I even try to flame variants of my viewers if they send me their deck lists. That's something I do. And yeah, I guess I'm just a big Marvel Snap fan after all.
So I'm in Toxic stream an awful lot. Toxic is one of the streams I spend the most time in, period. I genuinely really like his streams. He's always got great music going. It is a blast to watch him play a lot of decks and try to climb. It is genuinely heartwarming when he wins. I watched him win a major tournament, and there were tears. Maybe not always his, but there were tears on that damn stream. It was amazing. It was genuinely one of the most heartwarming and wonderful things I've witnessed in Marvel Snap. You should, without any question or concern, follow him. The man has basically given up sleep to follow his dream of streaming. It is at this point about 5 a.m. for him, I believe, right? 4? Something along those lines.
In 12 minutes, it's 5.
Yeah, okay, so it's almost 5. But like, and I feel sort of guilty about that, except I've watched him stream at this time multiple times. The man does not sleep. I have to kick him off. I like when I realize that I'm ready to go to bed and I get on to I get onto his stream and I'm like, Toxic, please go to sleep. He's like, no, I'm not ready yet. I want to stream. I want to play. He loves this game more than anyone. If you want like amazing Marvel Snap content, please go follow Toxic.
Thank you.
And Ika.
You should follow me because I'm more passionate about the game.
His mustache is pretty.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I cook a lot of decks. If you want to see, if you want to learn about the game, if you want to approach the game from a different angle and be like, okay, do things work like this, and what makes good decks, what makes bad decks? Come check me out. Come hang out with me. All the stuff I post on like social media is the stuff that I go through on stream. And sometimes it's bad. Sometimes I lose a lot. Sometimes I win a lot. Either way, we're gonna have fun, good times, good vibes. So yeah, that's what I got.
I'm gonna steal your hard sell. I said
I'm almost out of.
I'm gonna steal your hard sell.
To say about
All
Ika,
right,
so
I got
fine.
4 reasons to follow Ika. 1. If you would love to play Marvel Snap and have like a chill cup of coffee, I mentioned earlier, like Ika is one of the chillest people around. Like he's always joking with the chat, like just definitely not an elitist. Like he is so cool to just like hang out and spend it. That's what you're doing. Whenever you're watching Twitch, you're just hanging out with somebody. And Ika, I think really kind of embodies that. And you just feel like you're hanging out with a friend whenever you watch Ika. 2, if you love sweet mustaches, you have to watch Ika. Has the best mustache in the game, so by far you should absolutely watch Ika for that reason. 3, which you already mentioned, is your awesome cooks. So anytime new cards come out, OTAs come out or anything, Ika's always doing something different. The dude stays in top 100, which is ridiculous, and I don't even know how high he could climb if he just tried to play.
Wait, can I
meta
make a
stuff.
comment about that?
Go ahead.
Wait, I was flipping through KM stream the other night, and he ended up he said something about Ika. Maybe it was a stream, maybe it was the top 10 decks. And he was like, and Ika would be like top ranked if he would just play good decks. He's constantly brewing. He would be like one of the top players,
Exactly,
but he can't help himself. It was great. So I was like, that sounds like Ika.
On that point, is there anybody who has been featured more than Ika on your show, Glazer?
It's Ika or safety,
right?
It's like just like it's the two of them more than anything.
And that's because they are at the top of the metagame. So again, if you want to get ahead of the metagame and play those good decks, you're going to find them on Ika's show first, right? And the last note that I have here, because I've watched Ika several times, is if you do want to learn how to play the game better, he always goes through the plays, and not only his own plays, because he'll talk about it, but your own plays are very simple, right? You talk about like, all right, this is how this card works, that's how, but he'll talk about what the opponent is going to do, and 9 times out of 10 he is absolutely correct. So he is going to talk about what kind of deck they're playing, what kind of decisions they'll make. Sometimes he'll even talk about some of the players and how they play. His understanding of the game is just ridiculous, and I don't even know how he gets there. That's why I play starter decks.
So, fair enough. So I just want to add one thing. we're trying to make Ika as much as possible a regular on the show where he comes back all the damn time, because now that he's in this time zone, his insight's just too valuable not to have. If you don't want to wait for him to have time to come on the podcast, then make sure you're checking out his streams. He streams all the time and it's fantastic. But like, his insights are too valuable to the community to not just spread as much as possible.
Thank you for the kind words.
And we have a Patreon. Oh shit, Gunny. When I said, do we have anything else to plug at the start of the episode? And you said no. We have something else to plug, friend. Not the Patreon, but Gunny, go.
Yeah, so we have Snap Judgments League Season 5, which is crazy. Season 5 kicking off January 27th, which is, it's so cool. One of the big things that we have is full bot integration for top deck, so things are going to be so much smoother as a player. You can do everything straight from Discord now. It's just going to be a very fantastic experience on that front. We've already run a really smooth event. This is only going to make it smoother. I cannot wait for Season 5 to kick off. We took a little bit of downtime over the holidays, which was a much needed break. Burnout happens for everybody. I was definitely feeling that myself.
I took a huge break there.
But yeah, we're ready to kick it off, and it's just going to be good. I'm excited for Season 5, and excited to just really get the community back together, because I feel like, at least myself stepping out, I feel like around the holidays, everybody kind of spreads out a little bit, everybody doing their own thing. And Snap Judgments League and the Patreon, or the Discord we have put over there, is an awesome and amazing community.
It's also worth noting that if you are a busy adult, I know most of our community tend to be busy adults, all you need to do in order to participate in this league is be able to schedule one game a week. We have up to $400 in prizes, so please do check out the Patreon or our Discord linked in the description to this video if you're interested in the Snap Judgments League. In the meantime, I'm going to say a whole bunch of names as fast as humanly possible. This is all of our top Patreon supporters. I'm going to say so many names. I'm going to do it in as few breaths as possible in honor of our friend Roy, who is on a trip right now. Thank you to Abigail Giesler, Manager, Bernardo Regardless, David Wingfield, Dirty Casual, Downtown, LB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, Ink, I'm Frostman, Jane Everett. Sorry, Hota Navarrete, Yolo Potato, Thinking Poker, Prime Bryant. Thank you, Prime Bryant, for sponsoring Snap Judgments League Season 5. Ryan Burke, Ryan Wood, Caretaker Lee, Quarry, Kazushi, Archangel 3K, Powerfos, The Goat Seeker, Hollowed, Quid Pro Joe, Snap Citizen Joe, Fat Nick, Mr. Kerfuffle, Cables, Ginger Prime, Philip Bracco, Chapel, Kano Lucas, Weather James Stone, Rob Silverman, The Biz, Black Jeeves 23X, Rosie, Skippy G, Jessica Gamble, Tommy Nyquist, Kinger Bros, Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Kepsi Hoda, Lunacris, Corbin, John Q, Jim McHugh, Clam, Colonel Forbin, Yes Stout, 8 Stage Synth, Miles Mod Supreme Green, Goblin, Unibot, Flan, 56, Steven, Brian Kaufman, Just Nate Martin, Jason B, Only Fox, The Fazanella Specialist, Whoop, Matt H, DJ Mechanics, No Flex, Oculars, Mr. Craig Sterry, PG, Zodrix, The King of Canada, Denman, Falcon, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Great Lord as the Pirate King, Tuccrr, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for...
I'm taking us out of here. Thank you so much for listening this week. It was really awesome to have our two awesome guests. Ika, thank you for being here. Toxic Soul, thank you for being here. And chat, thanks for listening to us as we created this podcast. And now go watch it so we can get more views, please.
Follow ToxicSoulKing. Follow Ika. You won't regret it. Peace and love, everybody.
Thank you.